If you didn't already love Bernie Sanders, I'm going to give you another reason. Now, Bernie Sanders, running for president now, running against Hillary Clinton, attacking her from the left. I love it. I love seeing it. One of the things that he's focused on a lot that Hillary Clinton hasn't quite taken a position on is the big banks. Well, Senator Bernie Sanders just announced legislation yesterday that would break the country's banks up into smaller entities and basically take them away from too big to fail status. Oh, that's great. Okay. This bill is titled Too Big to Fail, Too Big to Exist Act. Oh, I love it. And it will, like I said, it will be introduced in the House as well by Brad Sherman and Alan Grayson. Alan Grayson, great progressive, congressman with guts. Supports breaking up the big banks. I think is a great idea. Now, if it's passed, it would require regulators at the Financial Stability Oversight Council to come up with a list of these too big to fail institutions whose failure would threaten the economy. Now, 1 year later, once they drop that list, they've got a year to figure out how to break them up. To be included in this list, some of the guesses here is that J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Morgan Stanley would definitely be among the ones that are labeled too big to fail and therefore be broken up if this act passes. Now, the bill would also prohibit banks in the list from using insured deposits. That's your money. You put that money in there, and it's insured by the FDIC. And right now, the banks have no stops on being able to use that money to gamble on derivatives, to do the same kind of shit that caused the financial crash in the first place. So that would be great. Now, Bernie Sanders says, look, the function of banking should be boring. This shouldn't be a high-stakes casino game. Now, he didn't say that. I'm saying that. It shouldn't be like going to the casino. If you want to go to the casino and blow your money, that's fine. But what they're doing right now is that they're going to the casino, but they're taking your money. And that's what they're gambling with. And that's what we don't want. And that's what Bernie Sanders is going against. That would be great. Now, Sanders says on this, when Wall Street tells members of the Congress not to do anything that will damage their interests, most members of Congress will adhere to that. Can we pass legislation in the United States Congress that Wall Street opposes? Now, this right here, I think, this quote is a direct challenge to Hillary Clinton and a lot of conservative corporate Democrats that are very much with the bank. Remember, Chuck Schumer, the number 2 Democrat, I believe is in the House or the Senate. I'm not exactly sure on that, to be honest with you. He says, frankly, the banks run the place. Now, when you have a legislative body that is controlled by corporations, that causes some problems. Okay, and Bernie Sanders has put up this bill as a challenge to see who in the Congress will support banks and corporations over the American people. I love it. I love it. Now, Sanders and Sherman point out that the reason that they're proposing this in the first place is because of the danger that is posed by these too big to fail institutions. Too big to fail, too big to jail. As Elizabeth Warren points out, they couldn't even punish these banks for crashing the economy and sending us into a recession. Couldn't even punish them. What, you're going to levy some fines? Yeah, these fines are really, really small part of how much money these banks make. It's a slap in the wrist. And so it really doesn't deter these financial institutions from doing the kind of shit that they do. Because if you're making billions off this, off doing these practices, predatory lending, and gambling on the Wall Street casino, and you're making billions off that, and you get slapped with a fine that's maybe $1 billion or, I mean, I don't even know if you've seen that kind of fine. But if you're making billions and you get hit with a very, very small percentage, well, you're going to keep doing it because you're getting rich. It makes no sense. Now, these, in fact, going back to the fines, right? Speaking of the fines, Sanders noted these large fines and settlements paid by big financial institutions since 2009 that totaled about $176 billion. So that's how much they paid in fines. Now, that sounds like an astronomical amount of money, and it actually is. But this just shows the scope and the size of all of these financial institutions. They have so much money built up in assets and just cash that they're sitting on that they can afford $176 billion in fines and fees. That's not deterring them. The $176 billion is not enough to deter them. That's how you know they're too big. And that's how you know that Sanders is on the right track. That's what Iceland did. Look at what they're doing. They had some pain in the beginning when they nationalized the banks, made them solvent again, and then turned them loose. With proper regulation in place to prevent that from happening again. That's what America should have done. Because you now look at Iceland, and they're one of the strongest economies in Europe. Why can't we do that here? Well, the answer to that question is Congress itself.